In today's transfer targets video, I'm going to give you a comprehensive overview of the best players you should be looking to buy this blank game week. Whether you're on that free hit or you're just going to use transfers to get through this blank, this video will help you out. Before we go and take a look at any players, if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, we are trying to hit 5,000 subscribers by the end of the season, and we can only do that with your help. So if you do enjoy any of the content you see, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have been living under a rock, or maybe you've been in a coma for the past few months, you probably have missed the fact that this week is a blank game week. Only 4 fixtures are taking place. Those are the 4 on screen, and as you can tell, it's pretty honky. Not too much quality kicking about in these kind of games so far. Burnley, Brentford, pretty miserable. Luton, Forest, again, bottom half Premier League sides. Fulham are okay. Spurs, you know, there's some good assets there. West Ham Villa is probably the most impressive fixture of the weekend, and where a bulk of our kind of assets are going to be, whether you are on the free hit or whether you are using free transfers this week. So I just wanted to kind of identify and make you aware, because I know a lot of people, especially in my kind of groups and friends, they've kind of just logged onto the app, went to pick team and just saw blanks in their team. So I'm just making you aware of it. This week is a blank game week. There are only 4 fixtures taking place. So let's go and take a look at some players to help you get through this game week. Starting off, our first batch of players is going to be midfielders. I just want to highlight this. I actually am not going to recommend any defenders. I think realistically, if you're on free transfers, I think you can kind of just coast by, to be honest. As long as you've got like some players in defense, I wouldn't necessarily be going out and buying defenders this week. I think there's very limited upside with kind of the scale of the fixtures. There aren't any teams as well I would be fancying for a clean sheet. So I think I'd rather, if I do have free transfers, be using them on midfielders and attackers, because I do believe there is higher upside in those positions. So let's take a look at some of the midfielders that I'm going to be recommending for you this week. Son is arguably, he's up there. He's my top choice for this week. He is the best transfer to go and buy. Obviously Spurs are yet to play, so do make sure he is fully fit and available for this blank game week. 1 goal, 1 assist in his past 5 games, but I only imagine that's going to continue to increase after his Asian Cup involvement. Fulham away, pretty decent fixture for Spurs. You would imagine they could come away with quite a comfortable win. 9.8 million, but I don't think that really matters, especially if you're on a free hit as well. You've got plenty to play with. Him or Watkins are probably going to be your 2 captaincy choices for this week. For me personally, I do prefer Son. I think he's just got that little bit of an easier fixture. He's a better natural finisher and has very much the ability to go and get those double-digit hauls. A fantastic player. He's such a key part of the Spurs system and side as well. And with Richarlison still potentially being out for this blank game week, I think that does mean that he's going to play up front, which is, you know, an absolute gold mine for us and a little bit of a cheat code in terms of positioning. Moving on to another player who I want to get. Well, I already have him in my team, actually. I don't want to get him. A lot of people want to get him. I have him. It is Jarrod Bowen. 3 goals, 1 assist for him over the past 5 game weeks. Again, yet to play in double game week 28. So just make sure he does get through that one. Second highest scoring player over the past 5 game weeks. Villa at home, not the easiest of fixture for West Ham. Probably a little bit of a tricky one, but you would imagine that David Moyes is probably going to sit quite defensively against a very good and organised attacking side like Aston Villa, and that is usually where Jarrod Bowen feasts on the counter, the fast breaks. That is where West Ham are at their best and where Jarrod Bowen usually picks up a plethora of points. So a really, really good option for me for Jarrod Bowen. Longer term, a little bit of a concern. So maybe if you're looking for those longer term options, I think people like Son, Louise, Maddison are better options than Bowen and Kudus, just down to fixtures. But maybe if you're like me and you're wildcard in a little bit after, maybe game week 30, 31, 32, I think Bowen is a fine choice and also does represent a captaincy option if you wanted to go down that route, because it does seem like he's in a little bit of a purple patch at the moment. Moving on to Douglas Luiz, it seems like this man keeps just popping up in my dreams and my nightmares. Well, more than nightmares, to be honest. 5.7 million for him, 3 goals, 2 assists over the past 5 game weeks. Again, Villa are yet to play in this game week, but he takes penalties, and for 5.7, I don't think you can go wrong with this one. Very much a 90-minute man for Aston Villa, so if you are in need of midfield assets, or if you're on that free hit, I think Douglas Luiz is a fantastic option. The last 2, I think, are a little bit kind of more differentially. Maybe if you're on that free hit, or maybe trying to gain a little bit of rank, don't want to go for Son, don't want to go for Bowen, maybe you fancy going a little bit of a different way, you play your game your own way. we've got Kudus. I think he's an absolutely fantastic asset, with obviously Paqueta being back, Bowen as well firing. It seems like when these three are kind of together, that is when West Ham get the best out of them, and that is when they usually cook and start doing extremely well. All of these guys are fit at the moment, and as you can see, he's picked up 2 assists since returning from AFCON as well. 14 points. You would imagine he will continue that trend of picking up points. Like I said, the partnership that those three have, it makes West Ham such a better attacking unit as a kind of an overall. In terms of the data as well, you can see it when they do have these guys available. They pick up more goals, they pick up more XG, more chances created as well. So you would imagine that's going to be beneficial for both Bowen, Kudus, and maybe if you want to take a gamble on Paqueta as well. Finishing up, we've got James Maddison. Now, for me personally, I think there are better options. I'd rather pay 7.9 million for Jarrod Bowen. Since returning from his injury, hasn't really pulled up any trees, not been kind of banging on the door or kind of making himself known in terms of the FPL community. I think if you're on a free hit, he might be an okay player to go and pick up. But if you're looking for transfers, I think Son and Bowen, even Douglas Luiz to an extent, massively outperform James Maddison. So for me, transfer-wise, I would not be recommending James Maddison. I've had a few people ask about him in my Twitter kind of comments, so if you want to go follow me on Twitter, there's a link to that. You can ask me questions. I usually reply. Sometimes. It depends what you put to me. But I usually reply on there. But James Maddison, for me, I think I would prefer going for Son, Bowen, or Luiz over Maddison. He's still a pretty good pick for me on a free hit. He will get attacking opportunities, but with Pedro Porro being back as well, he apparently will be ready for game week 28 and then obviously game week 29. He takes some of the set piece responsibility away from James Maddison as well. So I do think that lessens his impact as a potential FPL option. Moving on to the forwards, I've got 4 forwards who I think could do extremely well in this blank game week. I spoke about Watkins in the last section. I think he is a very, very strong captain shout for this blank game week. 6 goals, 4 assists for him over the past 5. Look at the expected goal involvement. Look at the points scored. He is absolutely decimating everybody in terms of points. A good fixture, I think, against West Ham away. They're not the best defence, pretty mid-table, kind of bottom half for XG conceded. The form that Watkins is in as well, you would imagine that he would be able to cook against this West Ham side. So for me, again, would be up there as one of my top transfer recommendations and must have if you are on the free hit chip as well. For me, Ollie Watkins and Son, both players I think you need to have regardless of your chip strategy this week. Those two for me are the key danger men to be watching out for. They're going to be the rank destroyers, the EO men, if you like to put it like that. Those two are going to be it, and probably the 2 best captaincy options for this game week. So for me, they need to be on your radar if you haven't got either of those in your side. Moving on, we've got Carlton Morris, obviously disappointed in the game against Crystal Palace today. No goals for him, no assists, but he does have a midweek game against Bournemouth. Then a potentially big, massive relegation 6-pointer against Nottingham Forest as well there. Home against Nottingham Forest. Luton aren't the worst at home. We've seen what they're very capable of. Morris is a penalty taker. It's a massive tick in this game. We've seen it. I think if you were to go for Morris, though, it probably should have been this week to get the double, then get the blank. So I think maybe if you were looking to potentially bring him in as a transfer target for this week, I don't think there's too much upside unless you wildcard in 30 to potentially get him out. But he is a penalty taker. He can obviously pop up with the odd goal and assist as well, as you've seen over the past 5. Like I said, penalty takers, they do sometimes just get that little bit of luck. He is their key danger man as well. And if they do score, it's usually him on the end of it, or potentially creating some part of that goal. A player I've kind of would be very keen on if I was free hitting, it is Muniz. He probably would be up there as one of my top kind of, I like to always have fun picks on a free hit. I feel that's what it's about. It's that 1 week, just concentrating on that. Or if you dead end in this week, he could be a really exciting fun pick for you and your side. 4 goals, 1 assist for him over the past 5 game weeks. 36 points scored. The lad is in a red hot streak. 4.5 million. Did blank today, though, which is a little bit of a concern. They do have Brozier. They also have Jimenez returning potentially for this blank game week as well. So might see his minutes reduced, obviously with not a great performance, not putting in a goal or an assist assists today. So we might see potentially him dropped, but I think the form that he's in, Marco Silva will give him kind of the nod. He will be the starting striker against Tottenham. It's not the easiest of fixture, but Fulham have been putting in some very impressive performances over the past few weeks. I think this was their first loss in 5 Premier League games today against Wolverhampton Wanderers. So a little bit maybe off the boil today. Maybe they can get it back against Spurs. They beat Manchester United at Old Trafford a few weeks ago as well. So they are prone to kicking some big boys down this season, play some very sexy football, very good football, and Muniz could be a very cheeky little punt. Moving on to the last striker option, and it probably is going to be one that I'm looking to get in, potentially for a -4 this week. It is Ivan Toney. He's got Burnley away, which is an absolutely fantastic fixture for this game week. 19 points over that time period, over the past 5 game weeks, sorry. 2 goals, 0 assists, not been really putting up any trees. It's half-time currently in the Arsenal game, and he hasn't done anything, or I've not been notified by my phone that he has done anything. There hasn't been any goals for Brentford, so maybe it's going to be another blank for him. But again, against Burnley, one of the worst defences in the league, one of the worst sides in the league. Let's not even just say worst defence, worst sides in the league. You would imagine that a goal scorer like him, a penalty taker, a free kick taker, would be getting some luck and potentially picking up some FPL points. So I think he would be a really good option, especially if you're on that free hit. I think he should be one of the first names straight in that hat. And finally, finishing up today's video, I thought we would talk about differentials. Obviously, a lot of people are going to be on the free hit. Some people might be just looking for some maybe players that can get them across the line. Maybe some cheeky players that are just going to pick up some points that you wouldn't be usually expecting, because the fixtures, they are a bit of a mishmash this week. Not a lot of teams that we're usually kind of used to kind of looking at. So a lot of people might be unfamiliar with some of their top players. So I've identified 5. These are probably my 5 favourite differentials. We've gone from one from pretty much every team. I think bar Spurs, we haven't got any. I think they're pretty obvious which players to go for from that team. So we're going to start off out with Hudson-Odoi. Very impressive from what I've seen, like Match of the Day clips and YouTube clips. He has very much been passing the eye test for me. Luton away, 4.7 million. So if you're looking for a cheap option, maybe just to sit on the bench so you can cram as much attacking talent in that team as possible, he could be a really good pickup. 3 goals, pretty good underlying data, and 34 points scored, the highest on this list. A player that's definitely caught my eye and something I might be potentially looking to bring into my team for this week. That Luton away fixture, you would expect Forest to go there and hopefully pick up 3 points, and Hudson-Odoi has been super impressive. My only concern is Forest do have a lot of these kind of wide outfield players, so maybe a little bit of a potential minutes risk. One of those other players is Alanga. He has got absolutely impressive data, but he just can't find the back of the net. That seems to be his issue. His shooting boots are currently missing. 1 goal, 1 assist, 19 points, but could explode against a very poor and high-line Luton side. I think both of these players, with the pace that they've got as well, could exploit that super high line that Luton have got. So I really like both of these lads. I think if I was on a free hit, probably would have at least one of these guys, Hudson-Odoi or Alanga. Obviously, Alanga is getting the better data, but Hudson-Odoi does seem that more clinical of a player in front of goal. Maybe that's why, you know, he was at Chelsea and Alanga was at United. Both have obviously been let go since, but that probably is that little bit of difference, that little bit of quality and composure that Hudson-Odoi potentially seems to have over Anthony Alanga. Moving on to a very popular differential, I'd say, within the community. It is Leon Bailey. West Ham for them. I do prefer Douglas Luiz. You're paying the exact same price and getting penalties, but his per 90 data so far this season has been absolutely ridiculous, and his past 5 game week data as well is absolutely outstanding. 1 goal, 3 assists for him over that time period. So if you are looking for a potentially differential midfielder, Leon Bailey could be a very quality shout this week. One that again has been passing the eye test. Like I said, Fulham have been pretty good over the past few weeks. This is their first loss in 5 game weeks. Alex Iwobi, goal at Manchester United, a goal today as well. 2 goals for him. The date is pretty good. He does play a little bit further back, which is a little bit frustrating. 5.3 million for a player who's not really involved overly too much. I would prefer potentially Alanga or Hudson-Odoi or Bailey over him. And Tottenham at home, it's not the best fixture. So I think for me, I prefer the other 3 that we did mention. But I just wanted to give him an honourable shout out. I think he is an okay pick, but I do think with the fixture and the other options that are available this week, I don't think he kind of cuts the mustard. And then this is one I got asked about in my deadline stream today. It is Fofana from Burnley. Now for me personally, I took a look. He's got the best underlying data of any Burnley player, but as you can see, not really too much to write home about over the past 5 game weeks. 1.5 expected goal involvement for him, so probably a little bit unlucky. Probably should have got himself on the score sheet, but for me, Burnley, would I want any of their players if I was on a free hit? Probably not. Outside of like maybe a defender like Charlie Taylor, I don't think I would want a striker, especially with the quality that we saw in the last section. I don't think Fofana is going to cut the mustard. So the guy that asked me that, I did my digging. It's in today's video. I just don't think he's a kind of a quality pick for me. That was transfer targets for blank game week 29. Let me know what you think of it down in the comment section. If you've got any questions about your team as well, do get them in, as I will try to answer as many as I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck this game week.